think that's what the market turnaround is on. This market was a little worried, Michael Lee, that he was going to use force in Greenland. He unequivocally said, I will not use force to take Greenland. But those tariffs are still on the table. Did we get a stock market that's reassured here?
You know, we did get like a pretty sharp reversal and rally on the no military comments. I didn't think military activity was ever really on the table. I guess you never know, but it didn't seem like that was a real possibility to me. And so, look, I think you kind of got to circle back to the hypocrisy that is NATO and that is Europe, in that you look at this war in Ukraine and Russia's the boogeyman, yet every war or every year that we've been at war, or Ukraine and Russia have been at war, Europe has spent more money on Russian energy than they put into the war effort. Okay, the U.S. has put, you know, different accounts depending on what the money's spent on, whether you include the money going into Ukraine and their pension funds and that stuff, and then the weapons assistance, you know, tens of billions of dollars. Okay, and so now here's a real opportunity for Denmark, which spends anywhere between $500 million to $700 million a year supporting Greenland, to turn around, have a partner that can do a large capital investment, start getting some minerals out of the ground so it could be a net cash flow positive to the country, and also be able to effectively combat Russia. From there, I mean, we do have a military base. We do have an agreement. It's clear that the president does not feel that that's good enough for our national security. But right. I don't know why. I don't understand the pushback from Denmark versus just negotiating the best possible terms for the people of Greenland and for the people of Denmark and for NATO.
Okay. Well, here's what the president had to say about that tangentially. Let's listen.
Lee, are you mourning the potential end of the Magnificent Seven, or is this good news for a market that's sometimes said we need broadening?
You know, I think there's some different things going on with some of these names, and like how Tesla and Netflix can somehow be related to Apple, right? Like it's, but you know, a lot of these other ones, you're involved in the cloud, in this AI, and both Microsoft and Meta were smoking the S&P 500 till the market kind of fell apart in November of last year. And so if you're looking out there now, you have Meta and Microsoft both trading at below market multiples on a forward-looking basis, which is pretty insane. I'd say definitely some concerns with capital expenditures from Meta, particularly in the way that Mark Zuckerberg chased the metaverse.
Yes.
Remember the metaverse? They changed the name from Facebook to Meta. That worked out really well. And so now it's not just using AI. And I'd say that Facebook really is the first company that really was able to monetize all this data, put it together, and really show a very high ROI very quickly. But now he's chasing something that's called super intelligence, which is where the computer is smarter than a person, and it's
right.
It's going to cost a lot of money. I don't know that he's going to get there, and if he does get there, I don't know how that's going to be valuable to shareholders. But there's definitely some concerns there. But look, like outside of Netflix, I like all these stocks. Google has just been an absolute rip, and if you think about what's going to feed AI going forward, it's data. Google's got your browsing data for the last couple of decades. Your emails. So I'm a buyer of Meta here, even with all this noise. I'm a buyer of Microsoft. I mean, NVIDIA's trading 13, 14 times next year's earnings. There's a long way to go before we kind of see a dead period, I think, for these stocks.
Dagan, I'm going to rope you in here on some
perception of not draining resources from the local community. Your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I think one of the byproducts of this AI revolution is that you fast forward 5 years from now, we're going to have the cheapest energy in the developed world, because these tech behemoths are not going to be stopped. And if there's a roadblock, they're going to find a solution. And like when there's money to be made and you have a government where you just take a step back, what has stopped the growth of the energy grid? Well, two things. One is, before this AI energy revolution, you didn't really need a huge growth in the energy grid because we weren't an economy growing at 4 or 5% a year. You're growing at 1 to 2%. So you don't really need a tremendous amount of energy grid expansion. So you have this green movement, which not only has like a cult-like following to it, it also gets a lot of capex into the large energy providers like like a Duke Energy. And so Florida, is red as red state can come, has spent a tremendous amount of money expanding all their sorts of renewables. So that renewables doesn't really increase the size of the grid. So all of a sudden, on a pivot, we've changed it. Now we need more energy. And what's prevented new nuclear plants, new gas-fired plants, new coal-fired plants, all the above is from the government. And you have an administration that's basically saying, let's remove every roadblock possible. Let's try to figure out a way to get as much capital in this as possible. And then you have a deal like Meta just did with Oklo in Ohio, where it's going to be 1.2 gigawatts of energy from a mini nuclear reactor. And so, again, fast forward 5 years from now, kind of the legacy of this administration is like, you're not only going to have the best regulatory environment, you're going to have the cheapest energy in the developed world. You have the best capital markets, ideally the leader in robotics and the leader in artificial intelligence, with a tax code made for people to produce things here domestically. So this is a positive, huge positive knock-on effect. What OpenAI is saying they're going to do with these Stargate plazas and build them to be energy efficient, and Trump hit on that earlier in Davos today, is that there's going to be excess energy that will get kicked back in the grid and should lower energy for the average American.
Does that help or hurt the speed at which we do this?
AI, you mean in general?
Yes. Sorry, I'll be more clear.
No.
My brain's on fire. When we're building out data centers, having to be